Hello, and welcome. Under Maryland State Law, House Bill 270, enacted in 2017, testing for lead in drinking water, public and non-public schools, schools are required to periodically test the water from their drinking water outlets for lead. As part of this, schools are required to submit proper documentation of this testing to the Maryland Department of the Environment. In this video, we will be discussing the floor plan. The purpose of the floor plan is to be able to easily locate each outlet tested if someone were to walk into your school tomorrow having never been there before. In creating a floor plan for your school's lead in drinking water testing, it is recommended that you use the school's original building floor plan, or emergency exit map. Otherwise, you can create your own floor plan if one does not exist. If you are creating your own floor plan, the buildings and the rooms do not necessarily have to be drawn perfectly to scale, as long as it is legible and it is clear where outlets are located in the buildings. Most likely, a floor plan of the school building already exists for fire code or other purposes. First, let's go through the basic requirements for the floor plan. On the floor plan, please indicate the building name, building floor, and the school's name as shown. Each room, which includes an outlet, should be clearly labeled with the room type and/or the room number. Each outlet's approximate location should be clearly marked. Approximate outlet locations can be shown using a specific marker of certain shape and/or color, such as the orange square one seen in the example. When marking your school's outlets on the floor plan, please include all outlets connected to school piped water except for toilet bowls, eye wash stations, and shower heads. Examples of outlets include, but are not limited to, drinking water fountains, bottle filler units, ice machines, hot drink machines, kitchen kettles, sinks in kitchens, bathrooms, classrooms, teachers' lounges, and health rooms, hose bibs, and custodial sinks. It is helpful to include all outlets, whether they were tested or not. For example, non-consumption outlets which have permanent signage indicating the outlet is not to be used for consumption do not need to be tested. However, it is helpful to know where these outlets are located in your school. Each outlet location marker should be accompanied by its assigned unique outlet identification. There are a few ways to clearly label each outlet with its unique outlet identification. One way is to indicate which outlet corresponds to which outlet ID using an arrow or line as shown. Another way is to have the outlet ID written directly next to the marker. However, this approach would only be effective if it is obvious that the outlet ID corresponds with the specific outlet marker when there are other outlets nearby. In other words, please make sure it is clear as to which marker corresponds to which outlet ID. If the floor plan contains room numbers, the outlet ID should be easily differentiable from the room numbers. If there are two or more outlets in close proximity to one another, you can either have separate markers for each outlet or indicate where the outlets are in relation to one another. For example, if your school has a drinking water fountain and bottle filler combination unit with a second drinking water fountain next to it as shown in the top picture, then the left water fountain and bottle filler can share the same marker despite being two separate outlets. In the case where you have multiple outlets that are near one another, such as in a home economics classroom, bathroom, or kitchen, you can circle the outlets and list them out in a way which clearly indicates where the outlets are in relation to one another. Please indicate which outlet marker the list of outlet IDs starts and ends with. In this example, the outlets are listed left to right starting furthest from the door, with the last outlet being near the doorway. If there are a lot of outlets in a room and you are unable to clearly label the outlets due to lack of space on the floor plan, you can zoom in on certain sections or rooms similar to what is shown in the example. Please note, the information on the floor plan should match the information and descriptions provided on the Laboratory Results Reporting Form, also referred to as the EDD. This includes the floor numbers and/or building name, outlet IDs, and location descriptions. For example, if the EDD states that outlet XYZ003 is on the first floor in the hallway near the bathroom next to room 123, it should be in that location on the floor plan as well. Now that we have talked about the basics, there are some additional details that your school can include in the floor plan to assist with MDE's review of your school's lead testing. The amount of information you provide on the floor plan may minimize any questions MDE will have. This helps to expedite the review process in order for your school's data to be included in the annual governor's report. In short, the more accurate, legible, and useful information you can provide, the better. For example, outlet markers can be color-coded and/or have different shapes to represent different outlet attributes. In this case, the different colored shapes pertain to consumption outlets, non-consumption outlets without permanent signage posted, and non-consumption outlets with permanent signage posted. MDE has reviewed floor plans where the school has gone so far as to include color-coded markers to indicate outlet type, and different shapes to indicate consumption outlets versus non-consumption outlets with and without signage. Schools may also highlight outlets that were tested during that particular round of testing to distinguish them from outlets that were not tested at that time. If you choose to include different shapes, colors, or highlights, please include a legend or key like the one shown. It is helpful to also include the total number of outlets at your school and/or the total number of outlets in each of the chosen categories as shown in the example here. With that said, let's talk about some common mistakes schools have made when creating the floor plan. The first common mistake is not labeling what floor or building is being depicted on the floor plan. Sometimes the room number indicates which floor it is on. However, in this example, it is not possible to tell whether this is the first or second floor based on the room numbers alone, since there are both 100 and 200 numbered rooms on the same floor. Another common mistake schools make is writing on the floor plan that the outlets in a room are tested, but not indicating which specific outlets in that room were tested. Please do not write just the outlet type in the middle of a room or hallway. In this example, there is no way to tell where the drinking water fountain is in the hallway, if there are multiple water fountains in the hallway, or just one drinking water fountain. If a school simply writes water fountain on the floor plan for any water fountain, it is difficult to determine which specific water fountain is being referred to based on the list of outlet IDs your school provides on the EDD and other required documents. If you are assigning more than one outlet ID to the same marker, please do not just put A and B or 1 and 2, because this does not provide location information. It is better if you were to include left and right or top and bottom. As stated previously, please clearly indicate where each outlet is in relation to one another, or put different markers for each outlet. Please do not write the outlet ID without an associated marker. The approximate location within the room or hallway is not clear without a marker. According to this example, outlet XYZ123 could be in the middle of the basketball court. Listing outlets outside of the outer boundary of the floor plan with no clear marker associated, or stating that an outlet exists in a building or floor that is not shown on the floor plan will not suffice. If there is a tested outlet in any building or floor on the school's campus, the floor plan for that building or floor will need to be submitted to MDE. Please do not have any lonely markers. Be sure that every marker on the floor plan has a clear associated outlet ID. If you accidentally put the marker in the wrong spot or are using an old floor plan where the marker is no longer applicable, such as an outlet which has been removed, please be sure to completely erase or white out the marker you do not want. Please do not cross it out or put a different shaped or colored marker next to the old one. In this example, you can see how this may be confusing as to which marker is the accurate marker for the associated outlet ID. Now that we have gone over what we would like to see and the common mistakes that should be avoided, there are some important details to keep in mind when submitting the floor plan to MDE. Please include a floor plan for all of the buildings on the school's campus and all floors of the school buildings where there are outlets which students and/or school personnel have access to during school hours and activities. Per the regulations, school buildings include any structures, facilities, additions, or wings of a school that may be occupied by children or students pre-K through grade 12. Don't forget about concession stands and portable classrooms. This does not include buildings used solely for administrative purposes. If your school shares a building with another organization and/or your school does not have access to all areas of the building, please contact MDE to discuss floor plan submittal and sampling plans. Please submit the floor plan to MDE as one document file if possible. Multiple school buildings or floors can be included on the same page as long as it is legible. Please submit all documentation to testresults.leadschoolwater@maryland.gov. For more information, please see the website linked in the video description below or contact us at reporting.leadschoolwater@maryland.gov. Thank you.